All right, folks, welcome in. It's War Chant Live. I'm Aslan. The other guy's Corey Clark. We're part of the dynamic duo that is Wake Up War Chant. We're not going to have a Friday podcast. This will kind of be it, I guess. Corey, first off, thanks for joining us on such short notice. I know you're super busy on Thursdays, but we had to let the masses know what we felt. The long-anticipated hire of Randy Clements is official. I'm not going to ask you how surprised you are because, again, it's long-anticipated. It's here. I guess your thoughts now that it's a real thing.
I mean, I guess the biggest thing that it finally happened. There's no more. It wasn't even speculation. Like, speculation implies that there was a chance it might not happen. Yeah. We were very, very, very confident that it was going to happen. It just took a little. It just, I don't even want to say it just took a while. It just took a while, but it's here. I would imagine the staff is complete now. Who knows, though? I mean, it's the beauty of this. You never really know in college football anymore, but it seems like the staff would be complete. And, yeah, you got a guy that's universally respected or seems to be in the college football circles and has worked with Kendall Briles for a while, which I think is even more important.
Yeah. Let's pop this up here real quick so the folks at home can kind of see what Randy Clements is all about. A little bit of a career file on here, Corey. He began his career with the Briles family back in 1990 at Stephenville High School in Texas. At Baylor, that's most of his prowess, obviously, because he coached under the Briles tree. 12 future NFL players. Yes, those are all offensive linemen. 5 All-Americans. 4 players, or actually players that would become 4-time Big 12 Offensive Linemen of the Year. And he's got 15 years experience overall at the FBS level of either being an offensive line coach, an offensive coordinator, or a run game coordinator. So I know there might be some folks that are a little bit down about losing Greg Frey because he was an alum, but obviously a capable replacement, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, look, if you look at the offseason that Florida State had, that Willie Taggart had, and just look at it in a vacuum, you traded Walt Bell for Kendall Briles. You traded Greg Frey for Randy Clements. You traded essentially David Kelly for Ron Dugans. I mean, these are all improvements, right? I don't know that anybody could argue otherwise. Greg Frey certainly wasn't to blame for all the issues of what happened in 2018, that train wreck of an offensive line. He did not recruit those players. They were there waiting for him. That said, he didn't do a good job with them. And when Kendall Briles wants his own guy, well, you got to do what you want. You got to do what Kendall Briles wants because you're trying to fix your program and fix your offense. So, yeah, this is the right move. It's neither one of us know enough about the technique of being a great offensive lineman to know what Greg Frey didn't do well that maybe Randy Clements will do well. But we know that Randy Clements works well with Kendall Briles. And to me, that's got to be most important. That's paramount to the whole thing. That's why Willie Taggart made this hire.
Yeah.
And made that fire was because they wanted Randy Clements because Kendall Briles wanted Randy Clements, which makes sense.
Before I jump in the numbers, we've talked about this on the podcast many times now, and we obviously anticipated it. But it's Kendall Briles as the offensive coordinator. He's going to be the primary play caller. It's his offensive line coach who's probably going to act as some sort of, I don't know what his title is. I mean, I haven't looked fully at the release, but I imagine he'll be a run game coordinator kind of type guy. This is, for all intents and purposes, I mean, what we're going to, Florida State fans should expect to see what Florida Atlantic fans experienced 2 years ago, what Houston fans experienced last season, and what Baylor fans experienced, at least on the field, obviously, here, let's focus, for that 6-7 year stretch where those two were working in tandem under Art Briles, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they've faced defenses quite like they will face in the ACC. I think that, the Big 12 obviously has been made fun of forever for the lack of defenses, and obviously Houston and FAU aren't facing Clemson's or even, I don't know, Notre Dame, NC State's, Miami's. I mean, that's a step up. But yes, I mean, everywhere these guys have been, they have put up monster numbers. I don't expect that to change. I just don't. I mean, I don't know that they've had as good of players. Maybe a few of those years at Baylor, they had equal talent to what they're getting here. But, I mean, Tamorian Terry, Cam Akers, LeBourne, a Trey McKitty, a Harrison, a Helton, all these guys are really, really dynamic skill player guys. And I don't know that they've had a collection quite like this. So yeah, I certainly expect them to put up. I don't think they're going to score 40 points 10 times this year like they did at Houston. I don't think they're going to score 30 points 12 times. But I also don't expect them to average 21 points a game. Because again, if they did that, they would come out of their skin. They would not. They wouldn't compute. They wouldn't know how to react to something like that. These guys, all they do is score points, put up big yardage. I don't expect that to change. Again, just on the field, it's about as. I don't know that you could have wanted Willie Taggart to do more. Yeah. You know what I mean? As bad as the offense was last year, you have to feel. I don't know how many points a game do you think they added? 10, 8, 10, and that's at least a couple more wins you would think. I don't know what the wins above replacement is for Kendall Briles and Randy Clements, but I expect a better record and I expect a much better offense because that's what these guys always do.
Right. I know there's one stat that was floated out there on the Tribal Council on War Chant. If you're not a member, use the promo code WarChant 30 to join the family. And the guy wasn't trolling, but he kind of just put it out there. He's a little bit concerned. I think Florida State had 36 sacks on the season last year. Houston was sacked 30 times, and they played one additional game. And everybody was saying things of like, well, they ran so many more plays than Florida State. And that is, it's slightly true, but that number is really misleading. So I'm going to rattle off. I'm going to try to go kind of like slowly here, Corey, so I don't overload people with numbers because we're not the numbers guys, man. But just in terms of pass blocking, this is according to Pro Football Focus, Corey. Houston ranked 12th. They graded out 12th best in the nation last year. 86.4% was their grade. Florida State's grade, 45.3. That was 130th out of how many teams, Corey?
I thought there were only 128.
130.
Oh, okay. I thought they were so bad they eclipsed the total number of teams.
No,
130 out of 130.
130 out of 130. So, and then I guess that number, people might want to know, well, if Florida State only surrendered 6 more sacks on the year than Houston did, why is there such a huge discrepancy between the quality of pass block grading that Houston has and Florida State has? Well, this is part of the reason why. So in terms of dropbacks, Houston had 474, 19 more dropbacks than Florida State had all of last year. So that's kind of crazy when you think about it, right? Especially because they even played an additional game.
Right.
We'll get to that later here. All right, hurries. Florida State was hurried 114 times last year. Houston 78. All right, so about 30 different, a difference of 30 on there. Pressures. Florida State was pressured 194 times on their 455 dropbacks. Houston was pressured only 118 times. All right, and then being hit, Florida State's quarterbacks were hit 44 times last season. Houston 20. So, I mean, you're talking they're going to cut the physical contact their quarterbacks are going to absorb. You would, not necessarily, but just in terms of what the production was. That's halved, and then nearly it's halved in terms of just the overall pressure. So you want to talk about wins above replacement. If you can keep, I mean, if James Blackman's going to deal with half the nonsense that he dealt with in 17 and then what DeAndre Francois dealt with in 18, that's maybe your best case. Yeah, man, that's got to equate to 2 wins. I mean, it's in 3 or 4 when you're looking at the quality of the schedule, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a notebook, so it was hard to write down. There's no way to keep track of what you just said.
A lot of numbers.
I also don't understand the difference between a pressure and a hurry.
Right.
That's
a good question.
Similar, but yeah, I mean, I think you said Florida State had 114 hurries, but like 189 pressures, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But also, I think it was Florida State had 70 more hurries, was hurried 70 or 80 more times than Baylor last year, which may not seem like a huge number, but that's 8 times a game. 8 extra times a game, Francois was running for his life or having to throw the ball away quickly. That's a big deal when you have the kind of receivers that Florida State has. Give them an extra half second to get open for your quarterback to see it, to have a clean pocket, and those receivers largely can't be covered. So, again, that's a big deal. It's just all of it is better. Now, again, he was working with more talented linemen at Houston, better linemen. Yeah. Incredible.
But it was year 1, though, right? I mean, Corey, that's the thing.
Sure.
Everywhere it's been 1 year, and it's happened.
Sure. And again, you can say that Houston's not facing the defensive lines like Florida State will face, but also Houston doesn't get to recruit the same type of athletes that Florida State does. Houston doesn't get a Dante Lucas. They don't go to Houston typically. I know Ed Oliver did. That was an anomaly. No big-time players go to Houston. Now, theoretically, if these guys are here for 3 or 4 years, they're going to be able to bring in their guys. They're going to be able to recruit at a level they didn't even get to recruit at Baylor. And they should, you hope, load the offense and get some really big-time offensive linemen And you got to think this guy, you hope that he can make them just what? Mediocre? Like just be like middle of the pack in the ACC offensive line? Yeah. Just do that. Nobody's expecting you to be Alabama. It's not happening. But just be not the worst in the country. That's a good goal, right?
Yeah.
Just crack the top 100. And I'm not even being sarcastic. Crack the top 80. Just look competent and give your quarterback and your skill guys a chance to go make plays. Because there were so many games last year where it was just running into a brick wall. Yeah. There was literally nothing they could do.
It doesn't have to be the chase. They don't have to chase perfection and wind up with excellence. They just need to jog. Just jog, man. Sure. Just jog to goodness.
Chase excellence and end up with okay.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. Yeah. But they should be better. And I think again, it's been a rough season. Obviously 5-7, no quarterback recruits, the Francois mess, guys leaving. It's just not been a great off season. But when you put everything together and compact it, what's happened in the last 3 months? Briles, Dugans, Clements, and a new special teams coach. Taggart addressed what had to be addressed. He did. Yeah. And you really do think that this is it's commendable that he was willing to make so many kind of drastic changes after year one and kind of almost say my bad. Give me a reset. And the administration gave him a reset. They paid money. They paid good money to get these coaches in here because they know how they really want Willie Taggart to succeed. And Willie Taggart wants to be the head coach at Florida State for a long time, and he wants the program to succeed. Right. And I think these are good moves, right? I don't know how you could argue against it right now.
No, I mean, absolutely not. I mean, I don't think in any coaching circle, I mean, we know for sure, I mean, nothing against Walt Bell, but I mean, Walt Bell's not proven anywhere near the level of what Kendall Briles has done. And I don't think Greg Frey, for, the limited success that he had at Indiana when he was solely the offensive line coach up there, I don't think that really compares to what Randy Clements did at Baylor and what he did last year at Houston. So, I mean, for sure, they've upgraded there. Now it's all culture, right? It's attitude. So, like in that vein, though, it's like you talked about, it won't compute with these guys, Clements and Briles, if their offense doesn't go well. So, like, I just wonder how much of like their attitude. I mean, because you want to talk about culture and believing and everything. Well, it's like it's their offense, man. Like they're now part of the culture, maybe even more so than what Willie's trying to get done with the Tribe 18 and Tribe 19 guys, I would think. Because like Briles and Clements aren't coming here to take pointers and clean up some of the things around the edges that went wrong. I mean, this is total upheaval. This is total overhaul.
Yeah, I think it kind of reminds me a little bit. We'll see how it plays out. But when Jimbo took over in 2007, he came in. Now he wasn't the head coach. He wasn't even the head coach in waiting right then, although we knew kind of where that path was going. But he came in and completely changed the way they practice, completely changed the mindset, completely changed almost everything installed a brand new offense and installed a mentality. Now it took a couple years to take off, but the 2009 offense under Jimbo compared to what he took over in 2006 was light years. Even the 2007 and 2008 were pretty good, and 2009 was great. You think Briles can have that similar an impact. These two guys, because let's be honest, Willie Taggart has experienced bad offenses, and he's experienced losing at a pretty high level because he's had to turn around programs. That's not an affront to Willie. That's just part of his career because he's had to turn around programs and he's had some bad teams to have to do that with. Kendall Briles and Randy Clements I can't imagine how they would react if they scored 3 points in a game. I don't know if that's ever happened in their lives. So I just think there's that, it's just a mentality that they have, a belief in what they do, and the history of always doing it, knowing it works, that I think will really resonate with this team and hopefully get the program back on the right track.
Yeah. I'm trying to do some math here right now, Corey.
You weren't listening to me at
all.
No,
I was listening to you, man. They're trying to get things back on track. I get it, brother.
You're like my kid repeating the last thing you heard.
Oh, man, that hurts. So you talk about Jimbo and what Jimbo did instantly kind of jump-starting things, man. So I think that's a good thing. I'm trying to figure out kind of run pass sort of ratios or whatever here, but we won't drag it out too much longer. But because my whole thing is culture, sort of philosophies or whatever. How much of what Willie tried to do last year is what Kendall's going to try to do this season? Because obviously we know that Willie's offense is derivative of what Baylor had run for so long. I mean, golly, like Baylor ran over 1,000 plays last year. Florida State ran 847 plays, I think is the math I got on here. And you want to talk about Willie wanted to run the ball. And I think that was part of the criticisms throughout the year was that he really did try to set up the run and to get something going. And it felt very futile once we started getting into October that he kept trying to run the ball. It felt like this offense obviously was a quagmire, but the only way it would move forward was throwing the ball and throwing the ball down the field to 15. But that's what he wants to do. He kept wanting to set that up instead of letting the pass set things up. But Houston ran the ball 53% of the time last year. Florida State ran the ball 47% of the time last year. So, for all the talk that we might have about how tough will this be for Willie to let go of the offense, you would think that that's the way he probably wants it to look, right? Like get 1,000 plays off in the year and run 536 times. I mean, run more than you're going to pass, but just keep that thing moving. So maybe it won't be as hard of a let go as some people might think it's going to be for Willie to step back and let Kendall Browse and Randy Clements handle the show.
Sure, man. I agree with that. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, we're losing a little bit of you. It's very bluey.
I'm losing my natural light. In the room I'm in, I just realized only 2 of the 7 light bulbs on this light are working. So we're
7
really
light bulbs? We got like a chandelier over there at the Clark Estate?
Yeah, it's a chandelier. It was here when we bought it.
Okay.
And I don't even know where to get those light bulbs to replace them. So, 2 of the 7 are now working. So
I got you.
I apologize, dear viewer.
Yeah, you'll look fine, man. All right, buddy. Anything else you really want to add? I mean, again, ultimately, I think just to sum up, what you've said, and I agree with it because I steal all your thoughts and try to repackage them, at least the good ones. Okay. At least the ones that sound good coming out of my mouth are usually Corey's ideas. We got to wait to Boise, right? We got to wait to Boise to see how this is all going to work. But it's encouraging. If this would have all happened on a much more condensed timeline, if you would have flipped out Walt Bell and Greg Frey for Kendall Browse and Randy Clements in a 18, 21-day window, you're thinking like, dang, this is really moving in the right direction. The way it was spaced out kind of made people feel a little uneasy. But this was long rumored. This was long anticipated. So ultimately, at the end of the day, all the upgrades that Florida State's made, it's hard to imagine this thing not looking better, and it's hard to not feel optimistic if you're a Florida State fan on February 21st, right?
Sure, and there's no status quo. Like Willie Taggart was like, nope, this can't do this again. And I don't know what would have happened if Walt Bell hadn't gotten offered a job. I still think maybe that was kind of a, hey, if you got any other ideas, look into them. Because I do think that Willie Taggart took a step back after the Florida game. It's like, we got to make a bunch of changes. And he has, again, 4 coaching changes when you count a new special teams coach. Just doing what he has to do. I mean, you got to. It's a business, man. Greg Frey came down from Michigan. I'm sure it was not easy for Willie Taggart to have to fire a guy that he brought down from Michigan, a Florida State grad. But you know what? Willie Taggart's got to think about the Florida State program. And he thinks, and I think we both agree, that it's better now than it was 2 months ago, than it was 4 months ago. I think this coaching staff is better. I think he believes that. And the Florida State administration has shown a dedication to getting him what he wants. Yeah. So now, you know what? Let's just go to a New Year's Six bowl game next year. I don't care where it is. I don't care which one it is. Woo. And then we'll talk about Briles. You're going to have to give him a raise, obviously, to keep him around. But if you get to a New Year's Six bowl game, I think we all say it's worth it.
Yeah.
Just a bowl game. Just a bowl game in general.
2 quick hitters before we go, Corey, from the folks on YouTube. Cousin Joshua Clark 06 says, what about FAU's offensive line? They did well with an okay offensive line. I think that obviously goes to your point about maybe they've never faced the defenses they're going to face in the ACC, but wherever Kendall's been, he's figured out a way to make a move. So that's a good point. I mean, I'm sure FAU's offensive line, relatively talent-wise, and what they face in Conference USA, I think they're Conference USA, is probably somewhat comparable. And then folks also want to know any word on a defensive backs coach. It doesn't seem like David Kelly's going to get that waiver, so they can't move him off the field, so he has to remain on the field. I imagine him and Mark Snyder are going to figure out some way to divvy up special teams duties. I know Robert Cooper said the whole thing about Odell's coaching the whole defensive line now. How much coaching is really going on right now? I would imagine Mark Snyder will help out in some sort of positional, role, and then maybe absorb more of special teams. But the hopes of a DB's coach, that doesn't seem to be happening. I don't think.
Just we'll see in August. Am I starting to turn blue? Kind of looks like I'm starting to become a little blue here.
Somebody says it looks like you're in a freezer. Yeah, so.
Kind of looks like a hostage video, except for the picture of my dad behind me.
Yeah, give me back my son. All right, man. That's a wrap. He's Corey Maslan. Stay connected to warchant.com. If you're not a member, use the promo code WARCHANT30 for more analysis and more reaction to Willie Taggart finishing up his offensive staff, it looks like, with the addition of Randy Clements as the offensive line coach. Say goodbye for us, Corey.
I love every single one of you guys and women.